Hey guys, welcome back to the Franchise Tagged Podcast, Season 2, Episode 18, now available wherever you get your podcasts, whether that be Spotify, Apple, or Amazon Podcasts. Yeah, we got 3. It's not really wherever, but it's close enough. So we're going to go through our standard game-by-game recap, as we always do. Then we're going to talk about some of the playoff races that are going to be coming down to Week 18 games. Then we're going to talk about the awards races entering Week 18. Most of the players that are up for these awards, especially the big ones, either won't be playing or won't be playing as much in Week 18 as, most playoff seeding is already set. So we feel pretty confident giving our favorites there. Then stocks, then PickEms, then that's it.
Yeah. We can get rock and rolling with the Christmas games. Yeah. I didn't watch either because I'm not gonna chill out like that. But they pretty much seemed one-sided on both of them, so I don't think I missed out on a whole lot. You would have actually had seen any clips from it. I actually saw 0 from either of those games. Anything that went on that was of note there? Any big injuries?
Not that I saw, no. There was dude, I'm so out of it this week. I have no concept
week
of time. Yeah. Was that the Tank Dell game or was that last week?
That was against the Chiefs last week. Yeah.
Okay. I knew the Chiefs played this week and I knew the Texans played this, the Chiefs and Texans both played on Christmas, and I was pretty sure, yeah. Anywho. No, I saw basically nothing. Lamar had a pretty good game, as he has basically in every game this season, and the Texans were just a rough look for him. Bad O-line play, as always, is what I understand from that.
Yeah, the general crux they've been running into all year long, kind of, it's definitely catching up to them as they're playing these higher caliber teams towards the end of the year. The Chiefs have been the Chiefs. They've been winning, but they haven't actually looked great. That they were able to kind of expose that, and then this week it's surmounted even further with the way they've been playing.
Yeah, but we can definitely talk about Thursday Night Football for about 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, about as long.
9 points scored in this game. 9. N-I-N-E. That many.
Wow.
Yeah, a 6-3 win for the Seahawks. I got home at halftime and I was like, nice, I get to watch the second half. Nothing big has happened so far, so all the excitement will be saved for the second half. It was 6-3 at half, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And no more excitement.
You had to kind of ask me about Caleb, and I think with this game, it certainly showed everything that I talked about with watching Caleb. He's gonna make a couple of flashy plays, but he's also not gonna conduct the plays that should just be the gimme ones all too well. Did you see anything that you thought might disagree with what I had said about it, or was it just for you as well? Kind of, you thought saw the confirmation.
No, for sure. The flashy plays were definitely there. He had a couple of the most absurd, insane plays that I've ever seen a quarterback make against the Seahawks. But then he would go and chuck up a ball into double coverage against Tariq Woolen, and just like that was the last play of the game, or last meaningful play of the game, and it was just like a lofty throw up there. He didn't. It wasn't a good attempt at getting the ball to a contested catch area.
Then we moved from Thursday, because, hell, they really gave us so many different days with games. We had Wednesday, Thursday, now on to Saturday. We're going to be talking about the Bengals-Broncos game, because this was one that definitely mattered big for the playoff implications for the Bengals in order to keep themselves in the race. And, they did go ahead, they pulled out a win, and it was very much in a dramatic fashion. They went into overtime, and usually you're going to think, okay, you're going to get the ball first in overtime, and you're going to just go down the field and win, especially when you had momentum heading in to overtime. You scored your last offensive drive. Generally, that means good things coming. You're going to get the ball back. You've already got momentum. You're feeling good about it. That's not what happened. They went ahead and they ended up having to kick a punt to start off, and so now it's okay, now ball's in the Broncos court. They just need to get some yardage. They go ahead, and then they're 3 and out, and they end up punting, and it's so back and forth, and then it's like, okay, we've got. I think it was even earlier. I'm not sure if it was actually towards the end of overtime or towards the end of regulation. I know that they sent out a field goal kick on third down instead of on 3rd and 3 instead of having an attempt at getting a first down, shortening the field goal. No, they went ahead and they took a field goal with not Evan McPherson because he had his injury, and so you have a field goal kicker who isn't exactly, he has not been your guy, and they send him out instead of a 3rd and 3, and this is for the Bengals I'm talking about.
Yeah, Cade
If
York,
Evan
right?
McPherson. Yes, yeah, Cade York. So
I know my kickers.
I feel like in this situation you should really maybe trust Joe Burrow, trust the offense. Like, yeah, you just had to punt, but also it's 3rd and 3. And if you don't convert, then guess what? It's 4th and 3, and you still get to kick the field goal. There's like hardly a risk there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's kind of asinine. And so then, of course, kicks, misses. Now it's the Broncos' turn once again. And, Broncos didn't make much out of it because I'm pretty sure the Broncos at that point had to kind of play for the tie. I think that was kind of the situation. If they tie, then the Bengals' playoff hopes are pretty much dashed, and the Broncos would almost clinch. So they start kind of playing a little more, safe, short passes, runs, safe, but it's just their offense.
Yeah.
But that still resulted in a punt for them, and then that's when the Bengals ended up, turning it on, 2-minute drill before they ended the game in overtime because they needed to not get a tie. They needed to get the win. So very interesting management, like just decisions with the field goal, decisions with clock management for the Broncos because, you have to play for, a tie in a game this late in the year to kind of hope that you clinch playoffs. It's definitely interesting, and I kind of wanted to just touch on it because, it wasn't a perfect game from either side. Several turnover on downs for the Broncos, for the Bengals. It wasn't a perfect game that you would hope from either of them. But, end of the day, the Bengals, they kept themselves alive, and we'll be getting into what that kind of means for this Week 18 slate going forward.
Into Sunday, a few pretty big upsets. I feel like the bad teams won and the good teams won this week. Like I don't know what else to, like it was the teams that we really expected to win won, and then in the teams where it was like a bad team playing a slightly worse team, the worst team was coming out on top. So the Giants, they could have lost and then just had the number 1 overall pick and just, controlled their own destiny there. They decided to win. Now it's the Patriots, and it's the Patriots to lose against a backup squad in Buffalo. And we'll get into the possibility of Joe Milton playing later, but that is a possibility. So yeah, they decided to remove themselves from the sweepstakes. The Raiders won against the Saints, and the Jaguars won, and that just kind of all like, why are you doing that? What are you doing? You're out of the playoffs. You have nothing to win for except for, a losing draft position. And why would you want to do that? But the Patriots, they're doing things correctly, losing big to the Chargers. And they are currently in pole position for the number 1 overall pick. If they lose this week at Buffalo, then, or is it at Buffalo? No, it's in New England. Damn it, we're gonna fucking win, dude. I don't want to win. But anywho, yeah, it was a strange week of games, and then the Vikings came out against the Packers, and I kind of stopped watching. I don't even remember the score. I think it was like 24-10, and I was like, yeah, Packers just kind of run pass punting their way through this game, and I don't really want to keep watching that. And then I turn it off. You text me 20 minutes later, you're like, oh, it's tied. And I was like, oh, wonderful. Oh, great. Isn't that wonderful? And Vikings did end up pulling that one out. And I have a little piece to say on Sam Darnold and a comparison to make. And the Vikings social media accounts posted a video of him coming into the locker room with everybody cheering. And the caption was, that's our quarterback, or that's our freaking quarterback, something like that. Like some words that make you think maybe he's not a one and done in Minnesota. And I have some parallels to draw with the feeling that I feel about Sam Darnold now and the feeling that I felt about Baker Mayfield last year. And if you'll remember, last year the Bucks gave Baker a 1-year deal after he was in Carolina and playing scout team D end, and then went to the Rams and led that drive with no prep, and
Yeah.
then he gets the contract in Tampa and he does great. And similarly, Sam Darnold was in Carolina. He doesn't have like some big drive to say, oh, wow, he can be a functional quarterback, but he goes to Minnesota and he plays well. And it's not just that they revitalized their careers in a similar path, but towards the end of the year last year, there was talk of Baker becoming a free agent and what teams would be interested in going after him. And I know there was a little bit of hype. I'm pretty sure it was all fan fabricated about Baker to the Patriots. And that was something that was talked about quite a bit last year, was Baker Mayfield could go to the Patriots and they could focus on receivers and O-line in the draft. And we could, build up around a proven commodity at quarterback. And then, completely unsurprisingly, the Buccaneers, who have just had success with this quarterback that they picked up off the street, they want to extend him because they want to keep having that success. And we see how it's worked for them. Baker's been quite good this year. And in a similar fashion, we're hearing about Sam Darnold and him being a possible free agent target for a lot of teams, and who's going to want to shell out a big contract to him, who thinks they can believe in him and they can replicate what's going on in Minnesota. But I don't see how the Vikings can go away from him and cannot re-sign him. And I understand there is a slightly different situation. The Bucks would have been falling back on Kyle Trask or whatever other veteran they could scrounge up. So there's not really a whole lot of other option for them, whereas the Vikings have J.J. McCarthy. But I think that your best option is capitalizing on the value J.J. McCarthy has to a team who wants to trade for a young, unproven, high draft pick, maybe get a late first or second round pick out of him. I think a team would be willing to send a second for a proven QB or an unproven but young, potentially good QB on a rookie contract.
Yeah.
And you capitalize off of that, because the downsides of letting Sam Darnold walk and not continuing to have him on your team is that now you're betting on JJ McCarthy. And if he is not the answer, if he is not leading you to 14 win seasons, you have made the wrong choice. And that's irreplaceable. Like that is not something you can replicate. You will not replicate a 14 win season. I don't even think they'll replicate it with Darnold next year, like to be completely honest.
Yeah.
But if you decide to let Darnold walk, it will be seen as a bad decision no matter what happens next year. If you re-sign Darnold and have a slight regression, there will be a certain sense of, well, yeah, that was going to happen because now teams have tape on him being this good in this system. To be expected. But if you let him walk and JJ leads you to 10 wins, it's like, wow, they lost 4 wins by letting Darnold walk. They gained nothing out of it because it's not like they're going to do a sign and trade or a tag and trade. Like, I'm interested to hear your take as an NFC North fan, but I don't see a world where Sam Darnold hits the open market.
Yeah, I wouldn't anticipate the, like, oh, he's just going to walk after 1 year of balling out. Like, they are in contention for number 1 seed, and, dependent on the win or loss of that, they will either have the number 1 record of the NFC or the number 2 record of the NFC. And I don't really see you letting that, chemistry leave the building. They have other players to pay, and that's always the consideration. I mean, it's Kirk Cousins. He left, he got a bag somewhere else because they have players to pay. And, this is a definite system that helps quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins looked really well there, and, now he's benched. And then, we have Sam Darnold coming in who, he's still very young for a quarterback, but it very much felt like his career was over. He's been around. He's been delegated that backup role since his time in, with the Jets. And so I think that he's definitely on a very manageable deal for them now with his 10 mil. Like, he's getting less than 10 mil.
I feel like,
yeah. He's getting less than 10 mil for the team right now. And so then you're going to go ahead and move into, next season. And you might have to give him a real contract because he just balled out for you. But he's played deserving of it, and he's not going to be a quarterback that's like he's if you let him walk and someone else shows out the money for him, okay, good. That means that you trust JJ McCarthy and that you're going to really put your all into JJ McCarthy. You're going to have that quarterback pay window. On the other side of that, you could keep him, let JJ McCarthy be healthy for a season and actually like get some backup reps, because if they keep the success they have, then they're definitely going to have some opportunity to pull some starters. Not so much this season because they win these tight games, but if you're hoping that this success piles onto itself, but they have a lot of cap space to work with, and I think you just keep him in the building. It's not going to hurt the roster because you keep him in the building at what is probably still going to be a nice contract, because it's 1 year of production. It's not like he's going to now be the highest paid quarterback.
It's going to be like the Baker deal.
Yeah,
it's going to be like the Baker deal with 3 years, $100 million. Like that's not an outrageous number to hit in this league. That's a very affordable QB contract. I think the JJ McCarthy situation is definitely a tough one to be in. Like to have picked a quarterback top 10 when, I mean, to be fair, what holes do they have right now outside of, your left tackle had a season-ending injury, so you had to go make a trade mid-season to get, he's actually a pretty capable left tackle, so you're fine. Like, what are they hurting for? Maybe something on the defense that they could have drafted, but I feel like the defensive players in this past draft were really underwhelming. So
yeah, and so they went and they paid defensive players to come to the team in the free agent period as opposed to get them through the draft. Like, and with this window they're in, I think you kind of keep both. I don't feel, unless JJ McCarthy is not a scheme fit at all for you, if you don't feel that, if you don't see that through practice, through playing like the in-game snaps that you might end up giving him next season, then that'd be like a ship him off. I don't see them shipping him off this offseason. I think it'll be a keep both and then see how you feel about them both when they're actively competing with each other.
That's fair. I definitely feel like they are the same person. Like they are the same quarterback. Like if you, I mean, looks
squint real hard.
they look real similar, but I feel like they are both moderately athletic. They can get out of the pocket if they need to, but their main game is picking apart a defense, passing, and getting it to their superstar weapons. And that's something that Darnold was not able to do in New York because of a lack of superstar weapons and a lack of an offensive line to let him stay in the pocket. But in Minnesota, he's doing that, and he's doing that extremely well. So you're seeing the upper echelon of production from that system, and even if JJ is able to replicate that, there's a year of chemistry built between Darnold and the receivers, and like you brought that up briefly, but I don't know. We talked about it earlier in the year about Darnold and what's going to happen with him, and I really wasn't sure. And I was like, let's let the rest of the season play out. Let me see a full year of Darnold. And now that I have, there's no way they just drop him. It's either both or just Sam. It's not just JJ. They're not getting rid of Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I agree. Moving from one conversation about a top 10 pick into another, we had the Falcons with Michael Penix making his second start against the Commanders in Washington. And there was a big storyline here. You kind of got two rookie quarterbacks dicing against each other. And, while Penix didn't look super accurate, specifically on deep balls, it felt like he was just a foot ahead or a couple yards ahead on a lot of these deep shots he took throughout the game. I think Michael Penix is definitely having a huge amount of trust and knows where to take the ball, and it looks a lot better than it did with Kirk running the team here.
Yeah, they've got a lot more mobility at the quarterback position, even if he's not like a Jaden Daniels per se. But even if he's not that, he is able to do bootlegs and able to get out of the pocket when he needs to and able to find guys on the move. I really think that he showed flashes, and that's like not a single person in the entire league, himself included, expected him to see the field this year. Like maybe week 18, they've clinched the division, they have no reason to play. Then yeah, sure, he'll see the field. But outside of that, not a single person expected him to take the field.
Yeah.
So the chemistry with the starters is definitely lacking a little bit. And I think that's where some of the issues can come from, his slight overthrows, his slight mistimings. But given an off season where he is the foreseen starter, I think you'll see a big chemistry jump. You'll see some of the more accurate deep shots to Drake London. He's going to figure out how Drake likes the jump balls and how, like, where to place them, where on the frame, like if he likes them, back left shoulder or whatever. Like you'll see that chemistry developing more and more over an off season through a training camp, and coming out into next season. I mean, let's look at the draft, right? Caleb Williams has shown flashes. He was the generational prospect. There's no amount of poor Bears play that will convince me that he's a bust after one season. So still a lot of potential there. Jaden Daniels has looked amazing. Drake May has looked great in for what he can do in the situation.
Yeah.
And then Bo Nix has, I mean, I hate the offense, but he looked great in the offense. He runs it. And then Penix has looked great too, like in limited fashion and with what we can expect him to do. He's looked pretty damn good. And this class, I mean, I saw a tweet the other day, and it was like, I mean, JJ's gotta suck, right? Like we can't have all of them be really good. And I just thought, like, yeah, that's this class is so far looking like what the 2021 class was supposed to be. And I don't want to say that and then have it pan out like
Cursed.
that, where Trevor Lawrence and then Mac Jones.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels, future backup to Caleb.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking more of the Bo Nix as Mac Jones take, but
I see.
I think that's the most accurate comparison I've seen for Nix's rookie season. Is like, this is a Mac Jones rookie season. It's good. It's not sustainable or like quality.
You figure out the offense, and then it'll be a game over there.
Yeah.
But on the flip side.
Yeah.
Or if you got more stuff for Penix.
I was going to mention Josh McDaniels. So go on, please.
Yeah. Okay. On the flip side of this game, I think it's certainly been shown that Jaden Daniels will strive in these late game moments. I mean, if it's the Commanders' like forte this year, we're going to have a game winning drive late in the game. If we're down, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull it from the rubble. And, you could say, some good coaching, that is. No, I would honestly give all of this to Jaden Daniels. Yeah, you got Dan Quinn being the lead of the whole team, but you got Cliff Kingsbury not being the most sound guy for those. Well,
he's second half. He doesn't know what to do. Games,
he's ran out of his pre-planned script, and now he's just sending him out there. And in my opinion, I think that it's probably a lot of Jaden Daniels conducting his own plays at those like moments, making the checks when he needs to, and understanding the situation and where he needs to go with the ball. And that's exactly what you want out of a rookie, honestly. And we'll get into some deeper talk with, some rookie play this year later in the video. But I think that he's played extremely well, and he's set the bar high for where to go the rest of the year. I mean, he's getting RG3 comparisons, like he's surpassing RG3 in rushing stats. It's a good year to be a Commanders fan. Shout out
Jacob. Shout out Jacob. Speaking of RG3 comparisons, when he took that hit and his leg bent underneath him, I got flashbacks immediately. I was like, fuck, it's RG3 all over again. And then he popped right back up. I saw somebody say he was made of rubber and Teflon, and he'll take the toughest, like, he'll take a hit that would break every bone in a normal human's body, and then the next play will run 70 yards down the field. And I was like, it's pretty accurate. That was from college, obviously, the college game, not necessarily the NFL. But yeah, it's their. You're right. It is their forte this year. It's something fun to watch for sure. And
transitions.
That's what I knew. I wanted to say something else about the Commanders. I think the offense around him is built really well, and he knows how to orchestrate it. And it's not necessarily just like, oh, he's got a good receiver and a good running back, so he's great. He's got the good deep shot, talented receiver in Terry McLaurin, but he also has the safety blanket in Zach Ertz. And I think that's a really underrated thing to have, is a trusted veteran that knows where to go with the ball and knows, like, there were a couple plays during that game that I was seeing, and I was like, Zach Ertz, there's no way that's his route. Like, it's the same thing we see with Kelsey, but Kelsey does it as like a maestro of cooking a defense. Ertz is like Well, I could drop 2 yards back and there'd be nobody there. Let me just do that real quick. And wow, look at the space in front of me. I am taking this for 30 yards. And oh, thank you, buddy. Ran at 4 miles an hour the whole way, but we got there. But yeah, it's really nice to have that safety blanket. And then he's starting to use Olamide Zacchaeus.
Oh yeah,
Was
big
a
game.
former Falcon, and the big game from him in the revenge game. And it was just like the little crossers, drags, slants, get him the ball in space and let him run. And that's what they were doing, and it was working great. And then he was trying to think of who else he was throwing to. But either way, I mean, he's using the weapons he has in his offense very, very effectively, and it's really cool to see. Where you don't necessarily have to have dominant ones everywhere, and you can still orchestrate a successful offense.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to start this?
No.
Okay. Then, wrapping up the week with Monday Night Football, we have the Lions, who went ahead and played in San Francisco. They, a little revenge game of sorts from the NFC Championship. Although the 49ers are out of it, they didn't, stand a chance, if you want to put it that way. They had nothing on the line for playoffs, and both teams had 18 players on IR. Big decision to play starters in this one, given the 18 players on IR. But it's one that I fully understood from Dan Campbell's perspective, because immediately Monday he's in the press room and he's saying, "Oh no, we're going to play our guys," and that's because on Monday you don't know that the Vikings are going to win or lose, and you have to game plan as if your starters are going to be out there. You're going to install as if your starters will be out there, and you're going to delegate your practice snaps as if starters are going to be out there. And so while the sentiment in my heart was like, I really hope no one gets injured, I really hope we don't have to play starters for the full game, that we get out to a big enough lead and we might be able to pull some guys late. That's not what happened. We ended up needing all of our starters. We needed to play. And there's a good part of that where I feel when you're resting starters, especially with who our current starters are, they are the backups. It's kind of difficult because you would rest the offensive starters because we have plenty of those who are still healthy, but you would end up then having a very battered, if you put in the backups for the defense, then you're having a very battered defense. If anyone was to get hurt from the backups, then come next week, our starter, he gets hurt and the backup's already hurt. And so once again, we have a new practice squatter coming into the fold. Whereas right now you kind of want to build chemistry of the defense that's been really just put together every single week of who we have. And I think that with the starting, lineup, if you were going to start the defense, you got to start the offense. You can't go one or the other. So just thankful to leave this game with no injuries.
Yeah, honestly, I was just hoping that we would see Hendon Hooker in the game. Like I really want to see what he's got.
Yeah.
And there's no real reason for it. I'm just curious. I just want to know what the Lions have in a backup, and it's not like an investment in the team to see how the future is, because I'm not a Lions fan. I don't give a shit. I'm just curious. I just want to see him play. It seems fun. I think that I kind of knew that the starters would start, but I kind of had held out like a little bit of thought, like, well, maybe they'll just play one half. Or maybe they'll just play a quarter, and then it's like, okay, backups get in there. Or at least like, all right, we're giving most of the work to Craig Reynolds, and Hendon Hooker is going to be the quarterback, and we're going to get a lot more Tim Patrick and Allen Robinson packages out there, and like give Amon-Ra and Gibbs and Jamo some rest, and Goff as well. And just like maybe not all the guys, but a good chunk of the ones that you really need would have been nice to see sat. But I also understand the mentality that Dan Campbell has, and that just wasn't going to happen. So,
yep.
Now, quickly, before we get into the awards predictions, because we are running pretty long on time, the playoff picture is pretty set on both sides. There is a 7 seed available for everybody. All the rest of them are already clinched. There's already 6 spots clinched. They can shift around. I think I know on the NFC, the 1 and 5 seed can flip between Lions and Vikings, and in the AFC side of things, you've got the Ravens and Steelers. They'll be playing, and whoever wins the division, and similar stuff there. But everything else is clinched playoff spots. So the Bengals, Broncos, and Dolphins are fighting for the 7th seed in the AFC. The Broncos clinch the 7th seed and a playoff berth if they win. If they lose, then the Dolphins can clinch with a win. If they lose, then the Bengals can clinch with a win. And if all three lose, it goes to the Broncos. Mm-hmm. And then on the NFC side of things, the Falcons and Bucks are fighting for the 7th seed, both of them playing at noon on Sunday. The Bucks clinch with a win. If they lose, then the Falcons clinch with a win. And all that means for you fantasy heads out there is the Bucks will not be resting any starters because they won't know if the Falcons will lose and the Bucks will clinch with a Falcons loss until after their game is over as well. So
leave Bijan and Baker in your lineups.
Yes, correct. Well, no, just Baker. Bijan would have been left in anyways because they would have to. They would have to win. But anywho.
Sure.
Those are all the scenarios, and there's a couple of other like I said, the division winners and a couple of the other seeds can flip and shift, but not super important.
Yep, and I'll get into the quick pick'ems recap we got for how last week went. I had a phenomenal week. I went 14-2. Unfortunately, one of my two was the Colts locked over the Giants, so not a lock there, and that does put me in last place out of all of, we did this last season, so we've got technically 4 seasons of stats to go for. I have now the worst lock record of any of those 4 seasons. And with a week to spare, look at me. But you, on the other hand, you went 12-4. You did end up hitting your lock, and that was on the Chargers over the Patriots. So, I mean,
it was initially gonna be the Colts over the Giants too. I shifted it because we were going through, and I was like, the Chargers got that one, and I haven't locked them yet. So let's go there.
Yep. So this week puts me at a total of 167-89. So I'm just 6 behind where I was last season. So, if I go over 500 on this next week of games picked, I actually end up with my best pick'ems record overall. And then I went 10-7 with my lock record, which is, as I said, the worst it's been for either of us throughout these 2 years. And then on your side, you're at 174 to 82. So you've basically got a lock on having the best pick'ems. I think you would need to get only one correct to not beat mine from last season. So you're sitting at 15-2 on your lock record, which has been the best. And you will probably end up locking the correct one this week as well because you're on an absolute heater.
I would honestly be shocked if anybody ever went 16-2 again in locks. Like, this is an unreal performance even for myself. And the thing that pisses me off so much is one of them that I missed was a joke. One of them I missed was a joke. It was I locked the Patriots. No, I did not. I did not.
Oh, true. You didn't put the lock on the tie. Yeah. My bad.
That would have been.
I forgot. I was just thinking overall. Yeah, the pick 'em. But
no, but lock the Patriots is a joke, and that was one of my incorrect locks. But we can get into our small segment award predictions if you are ready.
I am.
As much as we want the MVP award to be a big race with a bunch of people in it, it's really boiled down to 2 guys, and 3 if you want to stretch it. But we're going to go through with basically everybody and all the meaningful performances already having taken place, and we're going to give our final predictions for MVP, offensive player, offensive rookie, and defensive rookie. Maybe not hard predictions, but definitely opinions on who should and should not win them. Mm-hmm. And we have a couple of the betting favorites for each award that we will have listed, and then we'll go through if we want to add anybody to the list. But we'll start things off with the big ticket. We'll start it off with MVP. We haven't done this before. We normally go smallest to largest.
Inverse.
But let's just give you the payoff right at the start so you can click off this video after you hear this. So the big 3 are Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. And I think the reason that I want to take it down to a 2-horse race, personally, between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, is just because the Bengals have not been good this year. If they make the playoffs, I think there will be a big reason that Joe Burrow should win it, because without him, they would not be in the talks. But for me, I have my pick even if the Bengals were to make the playoffs, I know who I would want to win the MVP, who my pick would be. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it because I assume you're between Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, it's a shame because for realistic purposes, it is Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. Joe Burrow, he's played great. He's played great a good part of the year. The defense has been the thing to let them down the good part of the year. And, it's a shame, but quarterback wins is a stat that matters in MVP voting because, that's kind of a quarterback race. So it's always going to go quarterbacks, and it's always going to matter who's winning the most, who's the 1 seed, who's the top. And so when you kind of look at it and you consider the picks that we have, if I'm going to completely rule out Joe Burrow, which statistically, even I'm not sure Joe Burrow matches this conversation, but if
He
his
actually
defense
exceeds it.
I know he leads in the passing stats, but rushing wise, he doesn't have that to factor in. So I don't know what the scrimmage is.
True.
The total touchdowns to scrimmage for that comparison. But with Joe Burrow, and I'm going to negate him statistically because I don't know where he stacks up with those in the scrimmage department. I would go Lamar Jackson because Lamar Jackson has played phenomenally. He's played with very great protection of the ball. He's played great in a scheme where we know he will thrive. He has good running backs. This is definitely the best team offensively Lamar has had around him. He's had some receivers actually catching the ball this year. And I think that, Josh Allen just had a little bit too much of that turnover spurt right in the middle of the year, kind of knocked him down there. And I would lean Lamar Jackson because of all the great stats he has put up this year.
So I'm leaning Josh Allen in this one. Interception-wise, Lamar does have him beat, but he has enough fumbles to clear the discussion. So Josh Allen has fewer turnovers than Lamar Jackson, factoring in fumbles, which, I mean, for most quarterbacks, I would say, fumbles are a product of blindside block
Offensive
not
line,
happening.
yeah.
But with Lamar, when some of them happen on the run and some of them are for one reason or another, I think that they do matter and they do need to be taken into account. It's something that really doesn't get talked about a lot because I was also under the impression up until like probably an hour before recording, I was like, oh yeah, Lamar's stats are better, but Josh Allen's put his team in a better position. So, to pick your poison. But then I watched a Nerd Sesh video on why the MVP race should go to Josh Allen. And I was like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. The EPA per play generated, all these random created stats, of course, will favor certain players, and you can cherry pick whichever one you want to use. But to me, the MVP award is about the feeling that I get from a player and the amount of added value to their team that they have. And to me, if we look at how the offseason went we'll even go 3-horse race. We'll go for the 3 players. Josh Allen lost everything. He lost receivers 1 and 2. He lost a lot of his defense, which, if we're just talking about his production, doesn't fucking matter. But if we're talking about it with Joe Burrow in the race, quarterback wins, team performance, he has kept his team in a lot of games and won a lot of games that, for all intents and purposes, he probably shouldn't have won. But so I think he's kind of even with Joe Burrow on ability to keep his team in games. It's just that Joe Burrow has to do a little bit more because his defense is a little bit worse. And then looking at Lamar Jackson, when you consider what happened with him, you get all your receiving weapons back, Mark Andrews coming back from injury, and you add Derrick Henry to the fold, which is another threat to worry about in the running game and in the just like in the read option game. So you've got teams that are focused on the running back rather than just on Lamar when you're doing that. It's you do see a net gain in talent that the Ravens have brought in. And when you look at the Bengals, it's kind of a wash. They lose Joe Mixon, but Chase Brown has been really good and elevated by Joe Burrow for sure. But ultimately, like losing a running back that you didn't want and traded for a 7th round pick, I'm not really gonna consider that a huge loss, And then other than that, you lose Tyler Boyd maybe, but you still have T, you still have Jamar, you're still playing at an extremely high level. I think Gesicki is a new addition there. Yeah, he was on the Patriots last year. That I
Okay.
should have known. Wowza.
True enough.
But yeah, I feel like there's for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, there was a net gain of talent. For Joe Burrow and the Bengals, there was basically a wash of added talent versus lost talent. And for Josh Allen and the Bills, there was a significant loss of talent. And to me, the feeling I get about the MVP award, like I was saying, the value added, Josh Allen has kept his team at the same production with all of the players versus without all the players. Lamar Jackson has kept his team at the same levels of production with all the players versus with more players. And Joe Burrow has kept his team at, the defense sucks, so a worse level of production, but his offense has been basically the same as it was last year, maybe a little bit worse, and he was injured last year. So, but yeah, I just feel like Josh Allen is doing more by himself to elevate than any of the other candidates, and that's why I feel like he deserves it, at least in my heart.
Yeah, I mean, the team talent is definitely a good factor in that. And then when you brought up the fumbles, like Lamar, his rushing ability, like I wouldn't have pegged him to be a better passer than Josh Allen on the year, but a worse rusher. So that's an interesting little thing with the turnovers there. But long talk on MVP. We said we would get it out of the way, get it foremost. And now, if you want to stick around for the rest, we're gonna go ahead power through the Offensive Player of the Year award next, and we're gonna start with your opinions on it.
Okay, Saquon.
Yeah, cool, nice.
2K,
Short,
gonna
sweet.
break the rushing record if he plays. You can say Jamar Chase, he's having a phenomenal season. He's probably gonna win the Triple Crown, and that's impressive and all, but Saquon Barkley ran for 2,000 yards.
Yeah,
The last time we saw that was Derrick Henry, and I don't know. I feel like this is an insane season from Saquon, and for him to not win the Offensive Player would be a disservice to the award and to running backs in the league.
yeah. It's comparing a current top of the line versus a historical top of the line, and you got to go historical in that sense because it only happens once so often. But being the top of the
Ninth
current
ever.
league is definitely one that you could be like, oh, this should get the Player of the Year nod, and I respect the opinion, but Saquon, historical things being done, I lean that way.
Now getting into the Player of the Year, some of the current betting favorites don't make a ton of sense to me. TJ Watt is currently the favorite to win it with 11.5 sacks on the year. And let me see if he's got any other meaningful stats. 6 forced fumbles is cool, but like, I don't know. I feel like he is not putting up a season that would be deserving of a depoy. Pat Surtain is second highest odds, and then Myles Garrett is third. If you're interested at all, Andrew Van Ginkel is fourth in depoy
Nice.
odds.
Love
So
that.
gotta shout out my boy Van Ginky.
Yeah.
And do we want to maybe add somebody else to this race that may not be in the betting odds?
I would like to add somebody because he just had 2 interceptions this past game, and his name happens to be Kirby Joseph. He's named after a famous character, and he also is leading the NFL in interceptions. So I feel like with his stellar play that he's had all year long, he's kind of he's contributing as much as a safety can in the NFL, and you want to compare him to some edges who definitely have higher opportunity to come away with big plays of sacks, forced fumbles, what have you. I kind of lean towards that niche. I mean, hell, I probably had Brian Branch as defensive player, like rookie of the year, that first year. So I lean those more niche, stellar performances that may not be the ones that you kind of highlight as like, oh, he's got this many sacks and he leads the NFL. I feel that you kind of got to go with the harder to obtain plays, and I think with the interceptions, it falls in that ballpark.
Yeah, I would also like to see Kirby win it. I'm not personally a Lions fan, so I think that my desire to see him win it is much less biased than yours. But
Yeah, I'd agree.
I just don't think the rest of the league has done really anything. Like defense, I feel like is up around the league, but
It's a team,
individual
yeah.
defense performance is not. Like the best defenses we're seeing are great units, like the Broncos who have Pat Surtain, but they've also got Nick Benito going off, and they've got like other guys on that defense that are genuinely making a huge difference. And it truly is not a one-man wrecking crew like we've seen in years past with guys getting 20 sacks or guys getting like absurd numbers and the rest of their defense is doing nothing. But I feel like it's a race that's just going to be really like unpredictable because it's all going to come down to what the voters value the most. And if Depoy is as much an edge rusher award as MVP is a QB award, which I feel like that's what it's become in recent years, except for Aaron Donald, but like, anomaly, one of one. I feel like we may see a TJ Watt or Myles Garrett win it when they're very much not deserving. But advanced stats will tell, I'm sure.
Moving on, unless you want to put a certain, like you threw your hat in the ring for Kirby. I'm not sure if you put a certain like lock on who, if it's between Kirby and Pat for you. He just
I'd
looked
like
at a
to
Kirby
see
figurine
Gonzo
he
win
has.
it. No,
Okay.
I looked for my Gonzo jersey actually.
Okay.
You're close, right there. No, I don't know. I don't think anybody in the list is deserving of it. I think that it's MVP last year, where I was looking at the players and I was like, I guess there is a most deserving, but it is not a deserving player. But yeah, I don't know. I think Kirby would be cool to win it. I think that's my desire. But Pat Surtain would also make a lot of sense. I think just anybody that isn't an edge rusher would be really neat.
Yeah, that'd be fun, right? Fun to see the rarity of that. Then we've got Offensive Rookie of the Year. And now this one almost gives the same vibe of like, this is a quarterback award. The best quarterback from the rookie class gets it. But I would love to see Bowers get it, honestly, with performance. Like, yeah, Sam Laporta didn't get it last year, and he had a great rookie performance for a tight end. Bowers, I want to see it go to someone out of the norm. And it's like, realistically, I would lean towards Jaden Daniels with his comebacks on the year, the way he's conducted an offense of a team that is winning. Bowers, he's not exactly gonna lead a team to wins. It's not what his position does. It doesn't have that much weight. So, yeah, realistically, Jaden Daniels would be my pick for this. My heart is leaning Bowers.
I'm actually gonna pick Bowers. I really hope he wins. I mean, he's having a historically great season, just period. Like not even for rookies. He's just having a historically great season for tight ends. And I think Jaden Daniels is having a good season for a rookie quarterback, but I think that having a historically great season is more deserving of the offensive rookie award than, wow, a pretty good season. Like Jaden Daniels partially transformed the Commanders into a contender, but Brock Bowers is catching passes from Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell and Desmond Ridder and is leading like all tight ends ever in rookie categories. Like we're not going to see this again for a very long time. Like if Bowers doesn't win this award, I'm not sure anybody other than a quarterback ever does.
Yeah.
I guess is where I'm at with it. Then I feel like you've got a better handle on the defensive rookie race just because I know you are more of a Rams enjoyer than myself, and you've also got some high quality rookies over in Detroit over there.
Yeah. On the side of the defensive rookies that we've had, they're not nearly going to be entering the Rookie of the Year list, in my opinion. Terry Arnold, he really played poorly to start the year, has really turned it around since, but he's still having little minor tic-tac issues, so I'm not going to go ahead and insert Lions bias into this conversation. But that little bit of Rams bias that I've got, I might be moving some pieces because I really do feel that Jared Verse has done great things for I tapped on what his his cohorts when I was making those predictions that we went over last week on how the defensive line would kind of play without Aaron Donald. And, I think that he's performed the best out of many rookies this year. And it feels like defensively rookies haven't been as big contributors as probably years past. Quignon is definitely in the race here. But, as we kind of just touched on, the defensive line bias in these defensive awards. I would pick Verse as my winner of it. I don't have as much bias to lean towards those more niche prospects here, especially with defensive rookie where it's very much spread out. You're not seeing a lot of guys who are getting like all of the snaps or all of the opportunities to make all of these big plays. They generally are the ones opening up opportunities elsewhere, but I would pick Verse here.
Yeah, I would like to re-shout out the guy that I shouted out when we did this video mid-season when we were talking about the awards races, and that is Mikey Sainristil. We just saw him on the national stage last night, or 2 nights ago, versus the Commanders, versus the Falcons for the Commanders. He's a really good slot corner, and was forced to play outside because Marshawn Lattimore's hurt, and he cooks. I mean, like, I feel like it's once a game when I'm watching the Commanders and I look over and I'm like, damn, that's Sainristil with his hand inside of the ball. Like, like he is not getting a bunch of interceptions, but he is making plays on the ball. I feel like more than most people that I watch play. Like, on the year he has 2 interceptions, but 11 passes defended, and I feel like that's pretty accurate. Like, basically won a game. I mean, few games without him, but that's probably earlier in the season when I wasn't paying attention to him a ton. And I feel like he's done a lot, and I would like to see him at least get a nod for it. He is currently not sitting in the top 9 for Defensive Rookie of the Year, which is kind of disappointing. Definitely let us know your thoughts down below on all 5 major awards. Who you think might get snubbed, who you think is actually deserving of some awards. If you think the MVP should go to somebody who's maybe not a quarterback, and let us know that in the comments. I would love to see Saquon win it. Not gonna happen though. But with that, if you are here just for the segment video, check out the full podcast. Drops tomorrow, same time as the segment. If you are here for the full podcast, we love you, we appreciate you, and we're getting into stocks.
And I think I'll go ahead. I'll take the reins on the stocks department, because I've got a whole bunch of teams that, or a whole bunch of stocks. I'll say I have 5 in 2 different teams that are definitely riding, trying to win games late in the year, get the playoffs. And then I've got the 49ers and the Panthers. And while the Panthers, they've broken even for me, so I'm not up or down on that. I might just roll the risk. I might get the extra $50 profit if they win or lose. And then for the 49ers, I'm down $250 on them. And as much as I don't want to accept the loss, it's against the Cardinals. It's against another team that I feel is going to be winnable for them, especially with the performance they just put on. So I'm going to be rocking with all of my 4. Might as well just let it rock till the end. I don't have anyone that's good enough that's locked up a spot that's going to be, subbing starters that I might want to offload. That's not a situation I'm in with my stocks, so I'm going to try to get the little bit of extra profit out of each of them.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move off of my Rams stock. They are worth $12.50. I've made $250 on them. So that means I will be sitting at $5,000 in the bank account, I believe. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I will be sitting with my Buck stock, which I am currently up $350 on, but they are going into a game against the Saints, so a very winnable game that they have to win to make playoffs. So I will be holding out hope that they can win, and stocks are cut off, capped at the end of the regular season. So this is the last period where we can buy or make moves before we find out our final values at the end of the year. And I believe I am confirmed net worth over $6,000 after these moves that we've made. Even if the Bucks lose this week, I think I'll still be sitting pretty with some shmoney in the bank and fairly high net worth. So really excited to head into next season with some shmoney.
Yeah, right. We liquidate after the results of this next game, and as much as I didn't hit the peak that you did, very much I'm proud of the success I had with the money we started with here, and I think we might just have to make some fancy little additions to stocks for next season to kind of make it a little bit more spicy. But we've been thinking on that just a tad. we'll get into more of that next season. Just a little bit of a tease for y'all as we then move into our Week 18 final the week of the regular season pick'ems.
Yeah.
Start us
So
off.
yeah, let's blitz through these pretty quick. We've got opening up the week. It is a Sunday morning game or Saturday morning game. My God. No Thursday games this week. No Wednesday games this week. Starting off straight on Saturday. We've got Browns at Ravens. This is a divisional game. The Ravens need to win to lock up the division, and I will be taking them in this one to win the division.
I will agree with you there. I'm going to have the Ravens taking this one. And then we've got the Bengals playing the Steelers. And I'm going to have the Bengals winning this one, doing everything they can to go all out and try to keep their playoff hopes alive. They got to get this win over the Steelers to start that off, and I think that they will.
Yeah, I agree. I'm taking the Bengals as well, and I'm kind of leaning towards favoring the teams that have something to play for this week, and I think that's, I mean, obviously they're going to be playing hard, and that's going to continue here with the Panthers at Falcons. Falcons need a win. They need a win to stay in the playoff race, and then they need a Bucs loss. I have already said that I don't think the Bucs are going to lose, but I will go ahead and take the Falcons anyways. I think they're going to try to do everything they can to stay in it, and it's against the Panthers, so it's not like it's a difficult game.
I agree with you there as well. 3 for 3 so far. But moving off of the Falcons and Panthers, I've got the Commanders playing the Cowboys. I'm going to pick the Commanders over the Cowboys here. Just Jaden Daniels been playing great ball. And even if they, rest some of those starters, the Commanders, hell, it feels like they've been resting starters half the year.
Yeah, I am agreeing with you there. Again, 4 for 4. I've got Commanders over Cowboys. Then we head to Green Bay, to Lambeau. Bears taking on the Packers. I'm taking the Packers in this one, and this is my lock of the week. I don't know if the Packers will rest starters. They may. It doesn't matter. It's the Bears. It's the Packers and the Bears. It's in Green Bay. They are not losing a game against the Bears in Green Bay. It's just not happening. Like, I'm convinced they won't rest starters just because it's the Bears. If it was any other team, they'd probably rest starters. They won't.
Yeah, that the rivalry runs deep. I've got the Packers in this one as well. I won't be locking them, but then we move on to the Jaguars at the Colts. Hell, two teams that aren't deserving of a win this late in the year. Should I pick a tie? I won't. I'm going to be ending up picking the Colts, the home team, against the Jaguars. The Jaguars did pick up a win last week. The Colts didn't. I'm not so sure that's going to be a trend that continues going forward.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Colts here. Michael McCorkle-Jones, the facade cannot keep up for this long. You can't pretend to be a good quarterback for this long. It just won't work. His true face will show, his true colors will show, and he will eventually he'll be trash, as I know he is. Then we've got Bills at Patriots. Bills will be resting starters. I think Josh Allen's going to come out the first drive and play just to keep his start streak alive. But I really hope that the Patriots also rest starters. They have no reason to want to win this game, and they have everything to lose if they get an injury to a big position like Drake May. I would love to see them trot Joe Milton out there at starting quarterback and just be like, all right, everybody run
experience.
down the field. Joe, go throw the ball. And every pass is going at least 40 yards past the line of scrimmage. I think the Bills are going to win it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But the Patriots with a loss here lock up the first overall pick, which I would hope to God that we trade back and acquire some capital for.
Then, I'm agreeing with for the Bills for your sake alone. The resting starters. But I do hope that they come away with it just for that first overall pick for you guys. Then we've got the Giants at Eagles. If they let Saquon touch the ball for any amount of time, it's the Eagles. If they don't, it's the Eagles. I'm picking the Eagles all the way here. I don't believe the Drew Lock experience will be, continued.
Kenneth Gainwell is going to look like Saquon Barkley against the Giants. I hope they give Saquon touches. I hope he breaks the record. I really do. I've got the Eagles in this one as well, and I think this will be I think he would want to play against the Giants again at home.
Yeah.
He would want to show them like, hey, shouldn't have done that. Then we got Saints at Bucks, and this I'm going to keep up my end of the bargain when I said that I think the Falcons, or I think that teams that have something to play for, something to win for, will win games. I'm taking the Bucks at home in this one. They win, they get the playoff berth, and keep the Falcons out of the playoffs. So I'm sure they will.
Yep. I am matching you once again. We've got the Buccaneers both. I'm going to be dropping my lock of the week on that. It's the Saints. Please don't fumble this one for me. I don't want to go 10-8. Come on, Bucks. Pull through here. Get the playoffs, but more importantly, get my lock win. Then we've got the Texans visiting the Titans. I've got the Texans in this one. That feels self-explanatory.
Yeah. Back to that Saints-Bucks game. I would have put my lock on them if I hadn't already locked the Bucks a couple weeks back. But anywho, yes, Texans over Titans for sure. Definitely agreeing with you there. So we're straight on with each other so far. Then 49ers at Cardinals. I'm taking the Cardinals in this one. I think 49ers will rest starters. They have nothing to play for, and they already have injury issues. Why do more? And the Cardinals also, I don't think have anything to play for, but I feel like they won't rest starters. I just get that vibe.
You know,
I know there's fireworks going off in my backyard, so
we'll be quick then.
Yep.
49ers are the ones I have winning this one. The Cardinals, they've honestly both teams could rest starters, but I think that 49ers have a more starter-proof scheme that they run, so I'll go 49ers here. Then we've got the Chiefs with the Broncos. I've got the Broncos winning this one. Just because it's an important game, you got to win to stay in. I think that's going to be the truth for this one.
Yep, I've also got the Broncos in this one. I think that Chiefs resting starters is going to be their downfall, and the Broncos, like you said, need to win, and I'll stay with that. Team has something to play for; they're going to play all out. Then we've got the Seahawks at the Rams. Rams will be resting starters because they have nothing to play for. They've already clinched division, so I'm taking the Seahawks in this one. And yeah.
Yep, I agree with you there. Just kind of a little oddball for me. I generally would pick the Rams here, but I just have a feeling that the Seahawks are going to go in there and win, regardless of starter status for either team. Then we've got the Chargers at the Raiders. I'm going to be going with the Chargers in this one. Just, pile on to the divisional opponent right at the end of the year.
Yep, agreed. Chargers there over Raiders. Then we've got Dolphins and Jets. I think the Dolphins take this one. I can't remember why I want the Jets to win, but I think it's for the draft pick. I don't know, but I'm taking the Dolphins in this one. I think the Jets are very, very bad.
I agree with that as well. And now we enter the last game. We got the Vikings against the Lions. We've disagreed once so far. I wonder what you'll pick, but I'm going to be going with the Lions. It's at home. It's exactly how you want to end a regular season off. You're both 14-2. You're playing a divisional opponent. You got to show up to win the bye. I think the Lions are going to do it.
Man, I have no idea. I really don't. I don't know. This is the toughest game of the week to predict. It is 14-2 teams going into the final game of the season to decide the division leader. I have the Lions picked right now. I'm going to switch that to the Vikings. I'm going to say that the Vikings are going to walk in Yo Trap and take over Yo Trap.
No.
I just think that the injuries are going to hurt the Lions. I think they're it's going to come back to bite them eventually, and honestly, better to bite them now than to bite them in the playoffs. So I'm hoping that they take a loss now, go into the playoffs, and don't take a loss in the playoffs. But yeah, I definitely think it could go either way for the Lions or Vikings. And with the way we've selected the amount of games that we have picked the same, I will end with a better record than you.
Yep.
And so I don't mind getting an additional one wrong to just be a little different, But yeah, I'm rooting
just for that.
Lions.
I'm gonna go change all of mine. I'll go out with a bang end the year.
Yeah, I'm always rooting for the Lions. Always got them in my heart for you and for them being fun. And in the fantasy championship that I'm in my one league that I didn't lose in, I've got Gibbs. So I hope he tears it up. I hope he gashes the Vikings for all they're worth. But I got this sinking feeling that the Vikings are taking it, man. Every time that I've been like, oh, the Vikings could definitely lose this one, they don't.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. And before more fireworks start popping, or before they start popping on my end, we'll go ahead and wrap. This is recorded on New Year's Eve. Hope y'all had fun, I guess. Comes out days later. But I've got nothing to add. You got any words of wisdom for the people before they leave?
Yeah, Ken Burl Tompkins.
Nice. W. Chris
Deuces.
Conley.
Chris
Deuces.